Hey mate, stoked to have you here. Before I jump into today's episode, I wanted to thank you for the amazing feedback that I've received about episode 37 with my couple, Tegan and Rowan, about hard family conversations and spending money on what matters. The episode has gone through the roof for me, for the Unbridely modern wedding planning podcast at least. And I'm so excited that such a real and raw conversation has received such a great response. If you are a recently married couple and you've got a story to tell, you've got some advice that you learned along the way that you want to pass on to other couples, I would love to hear from you. You can DM me on Instagram at Unbridely, or you can send me a 90-second audio message via SpeakPipe, and the link is in the show notes for that. Let me know. I would love to have a chat with you and talk about whether or not your story is one that we can share with the rest of the world and help other couples learn and have a better wedding day and a better relationship with not only each other, the couples with each other, but with their families and friends too. It's what life's all about, right? So for today, if you want a simple way to make better use of your family and group photo time, if you want to save yourself from stress, if you want to get to your food and drinks quicker and be in a better mood for your couple portraits, you need a photo captain or two. In today's short and sweet episode, I am chatting with Valentina from Valentina Perez Studio about the benefits of choosing the right person as your photo captain, how to print up your group photo list, what to do if you absolutely must have lots of those big group photos, and a rough guide for how long that's going to take you. Let's get into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. I love Valentina, and thanks for joining me on the Unbridely podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to finally be able to talk to you.
Yes, we haven't caught up in a while. But we're going to speak really specifically today about photo captains and who they are and what they do and everything. And obviously, I know you quite well, but can you tell the listener a bit about you, where you've come from and what you do?
My name is Valentina. I am a wedding and portrait photographer. I have been living in Adelaide for, 8 years now. Yes, it's been a while. So I moved originally from South America. I lived in Melbourne for 3.5 years. I went to uni there. I studied photography. And then I decided to move to South Australia, where I was only meant to stay for a couple of years. But I met my husband in the first year. And the rest is history. I fell in love with the place as well. Listen, after some minor adjustments to shops closing at 5 p.m. in the afternoon.
We've improved that. Valentina, we've improved that since you've been here, right? That's often one of the criticisms of Adelaide. It's like an overgrown, sleepy town, but the lifestyle is excellent.
You get used to it and you learn to do your shopping at the appropriate hours. So you just don't let the food run out for a Saturday night after 5 p.m. and you'll be fine.
Okay. So you've been specializing in wedding photography for quite a long time, Valentina. And I was just saying to you before we pressed record that I'm getting a lot of questions at the moment from couples asking me how they can improve their day, how they can be more efficient, how they can get more out of their wedding day. And when you have a look through their plans, a lot of them don't know about photo captains. And I just thought, I'm going to get you on because I know that you're an advocate for this, right? Because it saves time, which is so, so valuable on a wedding day.
It saves time and it saves energy and a little bit of their sanity as well. I was telling you before that I think that we underestimate the part of the day that goes around family and group photos. And here's why. because we think of those photos as something that you can do casually, where you can just get your aunties, your uncles, just to get together for a quick photo, easy peasy, and you're off your way. But what happens is that first, those photos are quite important, because when the many years pass, that's what you're going to be looking at, to remember your families, to see who attended, to see that auntie that perhaps, or your grandma that perhaps is no longer with you. And it's important to dedicate the time and the right attention to it in that regard. But honestly, from a time efficiency point of view, they can take a lot longer as well than what you think. You have an idea of the people that you want to have photos with, but if you don't have a little structure to that process, you can forget people. And then you're going to be like, oh, I forgot to get a photo with Camille, and she came all the way from, I don't know, let's send you to Amsterdam.
Oh, fantastic. I'm in Amsterdam now. I'm going to interrupt you, Valentina. Do you want to introduce your co-interviewee?
I just have my little daughter, Lola.
She's gurgling away. No, she's having a great time.
Yeah, just started being very vocal this week. So she was getting ready for the podcast.
So I've come all the way from Amsterdam, so you don't want to miss me in the photo.
Yeah.
But what are the other advantages, do you think, Valentina?
Okay, so when the photos begin, everyone is going to want a photo with you when they see you in photo mode. So what you think was going to take 15 minutes is going to take 30, 40 minutes if you let it go rogue. Because every single person, and it's understandable. Yes, Lola, you agree? Because everyone is wanting to have a photo with you and wants to celebrate with you. So everyone's going to want a photo if you don't have a crooked aura. And they are going to try to pull you in 1,000 different directions, because you are the point of contact of that part of the day. Hence why it's super important to have a photo captain.
Now, who is this magical person, and do they get a hat?
This magical person. Yes, this is a very important person on the day, really. This person ideally will be someone that has a good sense of who everyone is in both families. So it can be a long-time family friend, or a friend from high school, someone that you grew up with, someone that has a good knowledge of who everyone is, and especially someone who is actually very assertive and that feels okay directing people, because it's literally wrangling people.
I like to call it herding cats. I think you said something super important just then. It's someone who's assertive.
Absolutely. Because if you have someone who is familiar with everyone, but perhaps he's on the shy side and it's like, I don't want to disturb you, can we just go and get the photo? And it's someone that tells them exactly what they're doing, obviously in a very respectful, in an assertive yet gentle way. But you need someone that gives direction, because in that moment, no one has direction. People just want to have a good time. They want to go and grab a beer. They want to hug you. They want to go and take a few selfies. They want to post on socials that they're celebrating your wedding and they're so happy. So that's not the priority for anyone, but it has to be a priority for someone. And something that we often overlook is that the impact that part of the day has on the rest of your day. Because if you're not doing a first look, often you have family photos before you go on your portraits with your wedding party or the portraits of the two of you. Yes, my darling. So if that part of the day becomes extremely daunting, like, I just want to get this over and done with, and people are not listening, and no one knows what photo comes next, by the time you get to your couple's portraits, you're going to be in a terrible mood.
That's such a good point, Valentina. Okay, so we've got this photo captain. Apparently they don't get a hat. I'm quite disappointed. I feel like they need a hat.
I feel they should have a vest, a reflective vest.
Okay, so they don't have a hat, but there's someone who knows most of your guests and they're quite assertive. And so how can you prepare your photo captain to make things smoother for you?
I think the first thing is for you to write a list. Bless you. For you to write a list of the people that are going to be included in those photos.
Let's face facts. You've always been the planner and the organizer. And your fiancé's eyes glaze over a little when you start talking about the details of your wedding day. But you really need someone to share this all with, to bounce ideas off, and someone who's not going to ruin the surprises, but also be supportive and maybe even offer a different perspective. So when you're needing to get a second opinion about your bridesmaid, your in-laws, or your first dance song, Unbridely Couples is your safe space. Unbridely hosts a private Facebook community where modern engaged couples can share ideas, chat and solve problems, and generally just get freaking excited about their wedding. We also have a curated list of experienced wedding vendor professionals in there to offer suggestions and tips, insight into how to get the most out of your big day. But with no unsolicited DMs or pushy sales tactics, it's just not what Unbridely is about. So you can search for the Unbridely Couples group on Facebook or just click on the link in the show notes. I'll see you in there. What's a good photo list? Does it say me and hubby and grandma? Or do you prefer first names?
It's better if you have a list with the names of the people who are going to be included in the photo. And you can have the relationship there as well. So, for example, you can have a first line saying me, hubby, and grandma. And you can have, in brackets, you can have grandma's name, John, Jay, and whatever. When we're calling out, it's easier for people to pay attention when they hear their name. Often they wander off. So I think actually the first step in getting that part sorted, the family photos, is perhaps having your officiant, your celebrant, if possible, towards the end, just saying, hey, family, we're going to do some family photos. Please stick around. That person does not get a hat, unfortunately. But I do think that it's a business opportunity for Unbridely to start designing some hats for photo captains in the future.
I'll get right on it, Valentina.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so they've written this great photo list. They've picked someone assertive. Do you have any other tips that, you could recommend for couples?
Take your time during this part. Allow the necessary breaks in between because it's not a straightforward process. So prepare for sometimes people not cooperating, and they don't mean any harm by it. They're just having a good time and they're in party mode and they might have had a few drinks already. So they just think it's the funniest thing to pull some faces on the photos and just to, just like derail from what you're trying to do. Because in your mind, you're like, yes, we need to get this done because I need to go. But that is not your job. That's your photo captain's job. Your job is to be happy and married and enjoying everyone's company because that's exactly what you're meant to be doing on your wedding day. Something to keep an eye on during that part of the day is, it sounds like a no-brainer, but sometimes we forget. Get things out of your pockets, people. Just get things out of your pockets when you go for family photos, because often you just get the photos back and you see, it's like, oh, this person had their phone or their wallet on the front pockets and it just completely wrecks them. It looks weird. Yeah, it looks weird. The main thing is I know you're there to have a good time and to enjoy yourselves, but these are probably the moments that you're going to have to remember a lot of your family members in the future years. And you have to think as well that weddings are basically one of the only few occasions where all the family gets together. Like you will have smaller groups within your family that you often catch up for Christmas or special Mother's Day or any celebrations. But weddings is truly when you have everyone there. So just make the most of it. I do think that is pretty important. I think that it's worth to invest the time into having a designated person looking after that. It will relieve the stress of you having to deal with that. It will keep your schedule on track so you can actually enjoy yourself in the rest of the times. It will bring order to the people that actually are being in the photo, because sometimes people need a little bit of direction and they need to know why they're there and what they're doing. And yes, there will be a lot more opportunities during the day to just loosen up and do more candid photos and enjoy yourselves. But this is, I'd say, like, aside from obviously the legal parts of the ceremony, this will be probably the only really serious bit. Something else that I think that it's quite important as well is, depends obviously on the number of guests that you have coming, on the size of your family. Try to keep it to your immediate family and really, really close friends. Because if you have a wedding of 200 plus and you want every single family combination, it's going to take a long time. It can take hours. Always have the reception to do more candid photos with everyone. You can always get your photographer to go around with you and do a few laps and just get some other group photos with every single little group that is important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point, Valentina, because, of course, the more photo combinations you have, the longer you're stretching out that time. And quite frequently, that's time when you're not getting drinks, you're not eating while you're doing it. I would imagine that would be super frustrating to have a really long list. Do you know off the top of your head, I'm guessing each combination of photos would take, 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Some of them are very quick, but for extremely large ones, I do allow something around 90 seconds to 180. It can take a while to post them. So so to be safe, I look at like 2-3 minutes per photo.
2 and 3 minutes. Okay. So if someone has, not gotten the memo and they've run off to the toilet or they're already at the bar, having a great time, then that's when this really blows out, doesn't it?
Yes, because you can't move forward. Something that can happen is that you will see like, oh, that's fine. Let's just skip to the next one. And then you put it because you don't go back to it.
Valentina, that's such good information. It's something so small, but I know that when we're working in weddings all the time, we really take it for granted.
You take it for granted. Absolutely. And look, my big emphasis on allocate enough time and allow yourself to go through emotions of doing it properly is because there tends to be 1 or 2 people surrounding you, or sometimes even yourself, because you're trying to get it done, that you just want to rush it. So go like, no, next one, that's fine, just the next one. Just take your time, because this is going to have an impact on everything later. And it's just a short moment on the day, like in the big picture. It's just a small moment.
Yes, a small but important moment that you want to be efficient but don't want to rush. Valentina, was there anything else that you wanted to get across?
It can be more than one photo captain.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold the phone. Okay. Why would we have 2, Valentina?
1 for each side of the family. You can get away with having 1 person, especially when I see that working quite well in weddings where they've had an extremely long relationship, like a long relationship that everyone knows everyone. They've been friends, high school sweethearts. They grew up together. They've all been to each other's families' houses and so on. But often they don't know the other side. So they're like, oh, who's Auntie Margaret? Who is she? No idea. So you have the 2 photo captains. 1 person can run point first. The other person can just take over when the other half begins.
That's a great idea, Valentina. I love that. Look, Lola's just going, I think we're done, Mum. And, I agree. That's great. You've given us all the gold. Really appreciate it. Do you have anything coming up that you want to share with the listeners?
I have too many things coming up, Cam. I have a new part of the business that, I focus around wedding photography, but I've had so many, yes, darling, so many of my couples that are always like just growing their families and so many things changing that I've kind of grew a new arm to the business, and it's related to motherhood photography. For the next stage of your lives, if you decide to become parents, which is certainly okay if you want to stay third parents, because I was that for 6-7 years. That's something that I'm very passionate about, and just connecting those dots that goes from being a couple and being 2 people to having a few more that talk a lot all the time when you're trying to record a podcast.
But look adorable doing so. You're good, Lola. You're good. And so if people are looking for more of your beautiful accent and more of your photography skills, where can they find you, Valentina?
You can find me on Instagram, Valentina Perez Studio. And the maternity bead is called Pearl Motherhood. Oh, my darling. Okay. And that part is calling now.
Val, she's done. She's absolutely done. Thank you so much for your time, both of you ladies, and chat with you real soon.
Thank you, Cam. Talk soon.
That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.